Hi, this is Susanna Bolane with the Times Square Beat. From that sensual purr, you know her voice anywhere. I'm talking the wonderful Kathleen Turner. You do such an amazing job directing this play.
Thank you.
Is this your first time in
No,
direction?
not at all. No, a couple of years ago I directed Crimes of the Heart for Roundabout, at that lovely theater on 46th Street. That was a Broadway show with Lily Rabe, Sarah Paulson. It was a lovely cast. I've directed The Killing of Sister George up at Long Wharf Theater. No, I enjoyed it. I just hadn't quite planned to direct this one.
Had you ever directed and been in the show before?
Yes, I have, but I much prefer one or the other. I really do. But this is how it worked out. And luckily, I'd accepted a supporting role. So I had enough time off stage to really be able to do the directing justice.
Now, what made you choose this piece?
Because it asks a question that I think is fascinating. When one of the characters says, "Look into my eyes, the soul that you love will not change," that immediately makes you say, so do we have some essence, something that is unique, whichever sex we are, that will always be, visible, that will be knowledgeable, that we will always recognize. I love the questions.
You have, I think, the hardest role in the show because you're a mother who loves her child, but has no idea how to truly go there.
I don't know how anyone would prepare to go through this life change with a child, but being a mother is easy for me. I have a wonderful daughter.
They're difficult questions that are asked in the play, and they're difficult conversations. I don't know how to exactly answer your question from before. I'm still trying to answer it. I think every day on stage I try to answer that question because it's difficult. I mean, with any kind of loved one, and your situation as well. I mean, living with someone that you think you know so well, you know them inside and out, and then to have them throw a curveball like that it's shocking to your system, because then your sense of reality has no base, has no center. There's a great quote from this memoir, and I know it's a memoir on schizophrenia, but oh God, I forgot the title of it. But the title is called "The Center Cannot Hold," and the woman talks about her psychosis and her trip through schizophrenia. But there's a small little kind of quote about how those who are having this transition of identity when they're going through schizophrenia, of like not having a sense of reality and having a sense of fear with that, and that kind of fear and that kind of lack of stability, and what happens to those people and their search for a sense of a center, and realizing that their center cannot hold themselves. And I love that quote, and it's kind of guided me through the production in terms of how does a person try to find their sense of identity and then be able to express it to their loved one, who should know that core, that center, and then realizing they don't. There's another layer to it, that we're all consistently growing in leaps and folds. Yes, exactly, and always evolving ourselves. I mean, even in our society today, we're continuously evolving. I mean, transgender community it's all of a sudden become hot or popular.
Shanks, I play Dr. Gerard.
Rebecca Brooksher, and I play Addison.
Now, Rebecca, you have one of the roles that goes through the most journey because your lover isn't who she seems to be. Where do you come from to play this role?
Well, I kind of think that the story is a love story, and we end up having the same fights about being dishonest and trying to get through those hard parts where you don't feel like you're being truthful to yourself, or you don't suddenly feel like you are who you are meant to be. I have definitely been in those arguments before, and this is not just a story about one couple, but I think it's a love story that we can all identify with.
One of the hardest parts is when you are not told the truth. And in reading the letter, probably would not have been told the truth until after the surgery was done.
Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow. And knowing that your significant other would consider changing her life without consulting the most important person in her life seems like maybe this relationship wouldn't be meant to be. So that is part of the information that I take in and then come to my final verdict kind of thing, I think.
I think the audience is completely happy when we see your ending. Like, we kind of think of this as where it's going to go. Yeah, I did. But we're glad because you also get what you want.
Well, it's really interesting that in the same way that she ends up being a he and who he is meant to be, we are all born with something like that, I think. And for Addison, it's to be a mom. And growing up, my family from the South, I'm one of the only people in my family that has moved 5 miles away from where I grew up. And everyone in my family is still married with their first marriages and have 5 children and still love their husbands. And there's a lot of America that is meant to be a mom, and that's a wonderful journey, and I hope that everyone gets to realize whatever that journey is for them.
Now, in your journey, you created the person of whom the other person wanted to be, and you're left.
Yes.
Does that happen often?
Well, I certainly don't have statistics on that. I mean, it's a very interesting, dilemma, and one that going into this process I had not thought about. I mean, the fact that, when Addison asks Danya, are you a lesbian? And Danya says no, because she's a man. And it's sort of the same in the doctor's relationship, right? The doctor is a woman, is a lesbian, and is married to a transgender male who is not a lesbian but a man. I mean, it's very complicated. But in the doctor's situation, yes, she gets left. And I think it does happen. I mean, I certainly don't know how often, but...
Without John Anastasia, Would You Still Love Me would not exist. We're here with a writer. What made you write this play?
Well, actually, I was inspired by a movie that I saw called Blue is the Warmest Color, about a coming-of-age story of these young lesbians. And I was so impressed with the love between these two women, I questioned as I walked home from the village if there was anything that could change the way they felt about each other. And by the time I got to my apartment at Tudor City, I wondered what if one of them had decided to turn into a man. And that's where the germ of the idea came from.
Now, in this play, you have the character unwilling to tell her partner.
Right, it's correct, because in the research that I did, in the LGBT spectrum, the transgendered people are the most, not closeted, but the ones that are most hidden in terms of the way they feel and how to realize what they need to be. Because it's not easy, but to decide that you are a homosexual or a lesbian is one thing. That's a choice that you can make and you can go with it. But to be transgendered means something more than just a choice. It means going through the physical transformation, the surgery, the hormones, and all of these things. And so it's a major, major effort on these people's parts. And I found I have a tremendous respect for those type of individuals that are strong enough to say, I'm living in the wrong body and I need to be who I am.